Hello there, my beautiful people. How are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Chris, aka the IT guy. I'm back with this video again, and today I'm going to show you how to make a live search by using Ajax, PHP MySQL, and Bootstrap. Before I start, I will have to show you the demonstration on what you are going to make. And for this, when you try to type, for example, the letter that contains our search keyword, for example, if I say K, it will bring all these columns and to show us the result that can contain this keyword that we write. And for example, if we try to make like this one, that like we don't have that pattern that is starting with triple P, that's why it is showing us that there is no result. So we always need to search for something on the website, and this is a cool feature to put on your website if you have one, and everyone that will come will be so interacting with your website in an easy way. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start doing the job. For this, I'm going to show you what I have my starter file here because we can't start everything from the scratch, and I'm going to navigate to it. It is called the start.html. It's HTML for now, but we can call it PHP afterward. And when you take a closer look, you can see that this is the version of the previous demo that we were trying to show, and you can see that there is this loading button, and there is this search input. And what we're going to do is to make this work, because when you try to input anything here, you can see that there is nothing displayed on the screen. So also we have the database, and I'm going to go into my database pretty quick. So I'm going to connect to MariaDB, and I'm going to use this called DB Ajax Search, I think. Or I can show the databases so as to be able to know what database that I have. It is called DB Search. I'm going to say use DB Search, and when I try to say, for example, select or from employees, because I have the table that is called employees, okay, it will show me the list of all the employees and some of the dummy data that I input for the demonstration purposes only. None of this data is varied, so there's no problem on exposing these fake emails or the fake phone numbers or the imaginable names. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. Other thing that I have to show you is that on the database side, I have this file that you can learn, and it will do everything as to create the database. It will use this to create the table and insert the test data. Okay, everything is here. And the other thing that I have to show you is now my configuration file, the way I connected to the database. For example, you can see that I was able to define the database parameters, the host, the user, the password, and the database name. Okay, and there is this database, and this class, what this class will do, it will contain this constructor, it will contain this connection to the database. You can see that I'm connecting using PDO. And there will be also this method for getting the logs from the database, and there's this object that I made from this class. So whenever I need to access anything related to the database, I will be pointing to this, and I'm going to point to any method that I will like. If I want to disconnect, if I want to get logs, or if I want to connect to the database itself. Okay, and there is this loader. This is now the loader that will load the configuration, and it will load the configuration, and it will load the database. So whenever we need to access the database or the configuration, you will need to load this file. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the coding part. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and rename this start.html to start.php. Okay, like this one, and remember to change it on here. And the next stuff that we need to do, as we're going to use Ajax, we need to acquire the jQuery CDN. So I'm going to go ahead and type jQuery, the jQuery CDN like this one, and I'm going to click on this website, and I'm going to get the minified CDN. I'm going to copy this and paste it in your head tag. Okay, and save. After saving, you can start now seeing what we have here. We have now the input, and it has the ID of search term, and you have this loader which has the ID of loader, and you have the other div that will contain all the results, and it is called search result. We're going to try to get the files, and there will be input to this div for the search result. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the coding. So we are going to go ahead and deal with the JavaScript and the jQuery stuff. So I'm going to go ahead. First of all, I'm going to initialize the document. So we should say document dot ready. Okay, and in this case, I'm going to input the function, and what this function will do, it will contain all the stuff that we need. First of all, we need to hide the loader because we don't need it. By this time, I'm going to use the loader dot hide. Okay, and you save and refresh to see if now it took the effect. That the loader is no longer showing, which means that our code is working smoothly. And the next step that we're going to implement is to create an event listener to the key app, or when the user type on the key and release it, there will be the action that are going to be done. So for that, I'm going to point to the ID of search term, because that's what we used on the input. Okay, after we do for this search term, I'm going to search for the key app like this one, and inside this key app I'm going to make another function, and inside this function we are going to make a variable. I'm going to call this input. It will be equal to, and I'm going to point to this object, and I'm going to get the value. Okay. And to make sure that this is working, we can go ahead and alert the input to see if it will try to detect our key while we press on it. So I'm going to refresh. So whenever I go in here and type you can see that it was able to alert that. If I go ahead and do like this one, you can see that it was able to return what I input there and this whatsoever. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove the alert because we were just testing to see if now the keys are being detected. Okay, the next step that we are going to do is to check if the input is not empty. So I'm going to say, okay, if now the input is not equal to empty string, or input is not equal to null. Okay, you need to detect that if the input is not empty. And in this case, we can go ahead and initialize the Ajax. I'm going to go ahead and do like this one. I'm going to do Ajax, and after doing this, we open, and in here, this is where we're going to input our parameters. First of all, we need to specify the URL or the file that will contain the query to the database and the or other logic stuff that will require us to implement so as to get the data from the database. So I'm going to call this, let me call this as a process.php, and they will create that file later on. I'm going to go ahead and specify the method as now the post method will be equal to post method, and I'm going to say, okay, the data that will be sent to the server will be equal to input, and it will be also equal to input that we have in here. Okay, and we're going to implement what we call before send function, and what this will do, it will try to show the loader as long as we are getting the data, so that a user will never be misconcepted that the data that is trying to search is not going to the server, or it can make the user wait as long as he will see the loader. He will be assured that the data is coming back to the server. Okay, so I'm going to do like this one, and inside this function, this is where I'm going to call back now the loader, and I'm going to show it. Okay, I'm going to use this show. And after doing that, we can go ahead and also implement the complete, and as now this will be completed, I'm going to implement another function too, and it will be like this one, and I'm going to go ahead and hide the loader. Okay, because we don't need to keep showing the loader as long as then data are being sent to the server. Okay, and after doing all this, we need to implement the success function too. As long as we will be getting now the data from the server, we are going to implement the function that will take the data as the parameter. And what we are going to do is to initialize the this div that is called search result, and it will be the one that will contain the result from the server. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay, search result, and I'm going to say HTML, and I'm going to input the data from the server. And not only that, but we need to specify also the way it will be displayed. For example, I'm going to input now this again, search result, and I'm going to put some CSS properties so as to be able to display where. So I'm going to say that the display will be equal to block. Okay. And after we implement the if condition, we need to continue by implementing also the else condition. As long as the if is not met, we need to show something else. So, and I'm going to click on if so as to be able to see the bracket where it ends. It ends in here. I'm going to go ahead and input the else statement, and inside here we are going to say okay, as long as we don't have anything, we don't want to display anything on our console or our browser. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay, search result, and I'm going to input another CSS property so as to make things easy. So I'm going to say display, and I'm going to say okay, none. Cool. And the next thing that we're going to do is now to make this file that is called the process.php, because it is the file that we were assuming that it will be the one that will bring us the files from the server. And before we do that, we can test if we were able to get into this file. For example, to do that, I'm going to go ahead and refresh. I'm going to open the developer console, and I'm going to go on the console to see if there is no error. But if we try to write anything in here, you can see that it is bringing us errors as long as we are trying to access this process.php file and it not exist in our project. So I'm going to go ahead and make it. Let me go and delete this. I'm going to go ahead and make it here, outside here. I'm going to say okay, process.php, and I'm going to say that if now, and I'm going to say okay, if we set to post, and I'm going to say okay, I'm going to echo something here so as to be sure that we are reaching on this file. And you can do as simple as this. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh and try to put in some rate so you can see that we are here. Okay, this is cool. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. After deleting this, we can go ahead and continue with other parameters that we will need in our file. First of all, we need to require this configuration file. And then to do that, I'm going to say okay, require once and it will be into app, and it is the bootstrap.php. Okay. After doing this, I can go ahead and try to specify the post for input only, so as to be able to be assured that we are getting the proper result. So in this case, I'm going to make the variable that is called output, and this output will be empty in the initialization, and this will contain the HTML code that we need to be sent from the server to the user interface to show the results. And I'm going to say okay, input, we are going to extract the input from the post, and I'm going to say it will be post and input. Okay, like this. All right, this is cool, this is fine. So, and we are going to try to point to the database, and to do that, I'm going to make a variable, and I'm going to call this result. And what this will do, I'm going to point to the object of database, and I'm going to say okay, I'm going to get rows. I already have that predefined, and inside in here we're going to use the select, and I'm going to use star for all columns, and from employees, because that's the table that we have, and I'm going to say okay, where names like, and we are going to use the like operator, and for this we are going to use the wildcard, and the wildcard that we're going to use will be like this one. I'm going to say okay, for the starting of the input, okay, and for the ending of the input I would be need to display all of this, okay. And I'm going to go ahead and test if this is working or not. So I'm going to go ahead and okay, say I'm going to save this, and I'm going to var dump the result, so to be able to know if you are getting the results. So I'm going to go ahead and save and refresh, and I'm going to put, for example, let me put D, because that the arrow is returning 0, and whenever I try to read, for example, let me write K, can see that it was able to return this kind of files. Whenever I try to say okay, P 0, whenever I say E, can see that it was able to detect the name with the E, can see that it was able to do this, and we are sure that we are getting to the database. That was what we wanted to test, okay. I'm going to go ahead and delete this and continue with the other processes. But in here, as long as we took only one name, we can go ahead and add another parameters, and we will do that later on. Let's implement the result first, and we will go to that back, okay. I'm going to say okay, if we get the result, okay, if we get the result from the server, we can go ahead and say okay, if we get the result from the server, we can try now to initialize something to the output. And what I'm going to do is to say that output will be equal to, and inside this output I'm going to insert some of the table parameters, and I'm going to do like this one, and what I'm going to input here will be like a complete big string. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay, table, and I'm going to specify the class. If you are familiar with Bootstrap class, you are going to understand what I'm going to do here. And for the Bootstrap class, I'm going to use table, and table, I'm going to say the table hover. It's kind of cool. And after that, I'm going to initialize the t-head or table header, t-head, and inside the t-head, I'm going to input. I'm going to do like this one too. Put a bit of indentation like this one, and I'm going to say okay, th, and first it will be the id. We cross the th. As a lazy programmer, I'm going to copy this a couple times to save time, and it will be having names. It will be having also the phone. We'll be having email, and position, key, and lastly the address, okay. We also need to display the address, okay. And after doing this, we can see that okay, let me do this as a tiara to make this so realistic. So I'm going to end it here, okay, good. So after this, I can go ahead and close the t-head to this level, t-head, and I can go ahead and open now the table body. As we are now escaping from the heading, we're going to go to the body, okay. And after doing this, we can leave it right here and try to implement something before we display the body itself, okay. And for this data that we are getting from the result, we are going to iterate through them to get the individual data. So to do that, I'm going to use the for each loop, and for each result, as for example, let's say as such, let's call this as such, okay. And inside here, I'm going to initialize all the variables. So I'm going to say okay, id will be equal to search, and I'm going to point to the id, and I'm going to copy these two and paste it a couple times, okay. like this. I'm going to say, okay, names will be equal to names, okay, and we'll be having also the phone and the phone. Okay, for the email I do the same as email. Okay, for the position and position, you will be also having this as position. Okay, and the last one will be the address. Okay, address. Okay, after doing all of this, we will need to reinitialize our output, and we are going to input this inside the t body, as we ended this string on t body. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, output, come back here, please, and I'm going to say, okay, output concatenate, or I'm doing it like this one, output concatenate will be equal to another string, and I'm going to do like this one, press enter. And inside this string, we're going to make the tr below, and inside this table below, we can go ahead and end it here before we forget and make some errors. And I'm going to put a bit of indent, and I'm going to put table data or td. Okay, and I'm going to proceed like this one. I'm going to do like this because we want to extract this as the PHP file, so we are going to escape from that string. So I'm going to go ahead and close the table data like this. I'm going to copy this a couple times. Okay, like we always do. Okay, names and phone. Okay, and email. Here we go, email and position. Here we go, and retrieve the address. Cool. Okay, after doing this, we can go ahead and come outside of the loop as well as to be able to display our output. So the loop was starting here, and so to go outside, that will be here, and press enter. In this case, I'm outside the loop. So as we try to initialize all the things here, now we can go ahead and say, okay, output, we're going to concatenate with the last stuffs. So we're going to close the table body, okay, because it was not closed. And after we close the table body, we can go ahead and close the table itself too. Okay, and we are done. Okay, so I'm going to do like this one, and the boom, we are done now. And the thing that we're going to do is to echo the output. Okay, and we are also in the if block, so I'm going to implement the else, and in the else statement, that's where we will be having the arrow. And in the else statement, we're going to say, okay, echo, and I'm going to display the string that you need. But as I'm using Bootstrap, I can go ahead and input some of the div, and I give this as a class of class for alert, danger, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to give it a lol as an alert. Okay, and inside this alert, I can go ahead and input some data, and I'm going to say, okay, no results found, and you put it like this one. Don't forget to close the div. Okay, and we are ready now to test if now this is working the way we expect it. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh, try to input some data, so that this is not bringing anything. So I'm going to inspect to see if there is no error we are making. So I'm going to go to the network, and I'm going to try like this one. You can see that it was not bringing anything. So let's try to finish this statement. As we are trying to do this on the name, we're going to continue with other parameters, and I'm going to say, okay, or, and I'm going to, as we took the name, we can go ahead and put the phone also. And so I'm going to copy this, and we're going to edit for a bit, and I'm going or, I'm going to say, okay, let me press enter so as to have a clean workspace like this one. Phone, like, okay. And I'm going to say, okay, or I'm using the or like this one, which is not proper one. I'm so sorry. After we do this or email, after we do that, I'm going to come back on the email like this, and I'm going to use or again. I'm going to say, okay, for the position, okay, and the rest read the position, and I'm going to detect for the address too, okay, and or address, okay. And for this case, whenever we try to input, for example, like this one, you can see that I'm having an error and I'm having the syntax error. Let me see where I'm having the syntax error. So let's check very quick. Here it is, okay. Here it is. You're going to use or like this one. So whenever I come back and refresh and I input D, because that was able to display this. Whenever I input K, you can bring or with K. Whenever I input O, you can bring or with this. Whenever I input E, whenever I input M, or I input the Q, you can see that there is no result. Whenever I input W, it will bring the results that contain that letter. And whenever I say like this one, but you can see that there is a problem whenever we do this and no results. It is not displaying the error. We can go ahead and try to debug that too. So when I refresh and input some of the gibberish, that it was not able to display anything. So I'm going to go ahead and see wherever there is an error. So in here, so it was not able to echo this, and the if that we were trying to initialize was not like this, to the else statement will come inside here, okay. It will come inside here. That's where it will make the sense. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh, try to input gibberish. You can see that it was able to display this, and we forgot the first this stuff. That's why it was displaying it as a plain text. And when you do this, you can see that it was able to display this, that there is no result found, okay. There are many stuff that you can do with these wildcards. If you want to bring, for example, the result for the first or for the last, you can go ahead and try to modify something, and you can save and you try to see the results or to see the optimized result, as long as you change anything. And you can use the regular expression to make your queries more powerful to do this, okay. That was it for today. I hope guys you do like it, and if you met with any problem, let me know. I will input the source code in the description, and it will be a gift to 5,000 subscribers right now, and you can go ahead and download that code for free and implement in your project. Let me know if there is anything I can help you with. So stay cool. If you do like this video, go ahead and press the like button, and if you are coming on this channel for the first time, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification to get the videos on time whenever we upload them. So stay cool and ciao.